Alright, should be back again. Sorry to all those poor people who actually saw the first video where now I have to do it again because the microphone was not on for whatever reason in OBS. I mean, you do have to, every single time, you do have to check everything because it does these little buggy things. So, not that I'm making excuses, but fuck. I mean, yes, it was really shit. It's really a nasty outcome, frankly. So a half hour wasted, and that's unfortunate. And now I'm tired, so now I have to make the same video again. So anyway, what I was going to talk about was experiments, and the fact that we need more of them, and all of that kind of stuff. The fact is that no one pays any attention to the counter argument. So I have, in the 2 years I've been arguing this, made a ton of arguments that have not been responded to in any coherent way. Just ignored, and so I should go over a few of those, and I'm just have to decide which way to go here. Which I already have it drawn from the previous video, so maybe I'll just go with the previous drawing and explain that one first, and how that basic argument has been stated over and over, and there's no coherent reasoning to why this argument isn't in some ways just plain decisive, and you can't get around it, and it's blows up their whole nonsensical theory and all that stuff. But first I have to fix that even. That's not good enough contrast. So just shit. This will probably blow up the camera, but whatever. Alright, that's better, I think. Alright, it's just not centered very well. And now it's gotten all kind of flashy again. Fuck. Damn it. Alright, we'll do one more try at fixing it. There. It looks fixed there. Okay, well, it's a little better. Anyway. Alright, so this is a classic experiment done hundreds of times. You can find videos. This is reliable known. You can take a 5-mass cart and you give it a velocity, and then you drop an extra 5 mass on it to double its mass. And it always continues its voyage at something like, 0.49%, half. Very close, 4.8, 4.7, very, very, very close to 1/2 the speed. So you basically perfectly conserve the momentum, in that you lose a little tiny bit to a little bit of bouncing or some other kind of nonsense, but very little energy is lost, and it's not really a collision against your force, right? You're just adding weight, so it's a different kind of collision, and you're really not, any sound you make is really the sound of the gravitational energy of the object falling. It's not the sound of you stopping something from moving. You're not creating an opposing force to its movement. You're creating another force that's making any noise or deformation or sound. And the fact is that you're pretty clear to just keep doing what you're doing, which is flying. Alright. Rolling. So the fact is their theory says you started with 200 joules and you only have 100 joules when you finish the experiment. So even though there's no visible signs of deformation or no visible signs of a huge sound or any evidence of a huge amount of energy being lost somewhere, nothing really, no evidence, no broken wheels, nothing to show that you did something dramatically energetic, they say, yes, you've lost half the energy through this process. And clearly momentum says, no, everything's just fine. You have exactly the same momentum because you have a 2 mass going 1 velocity, and you had started with a 1 mass going 2 velocity. So your momentum is perfectly equal, perfectly consistent. You haven't lost any substantial amount of energy, no problem. Now just think of the illogical of their argument. They're saying there was 100 joules worth of catastrophe that took place, and somehow you used no momentum to do it. So you moved little particles, you moved air molecules, you moved a whole bunch of stuff, and somehow you didn't have to use anything's momentum to do it. No momentum consumed for all of that catastrophe, all of that bent metal and bent this and bent that. right on its face. That is so illogical and silly that I shouldn't have to make. So I made this argument 2 years ago. I mean, it's a decisive argument. You can't claim it lost half the energy and then say, and then not point out where. And again, as soon as you say sound, I'm going to say, no, that's gravitational energy. Okay, so that's not going to work. As soon as you say it bounced, I'm going to say, well, that's gravitational energy. It doesn't have anything to do with the motion this way. Moving up and down this way doesn't have anything to do with going this way. Not in this case, but that's just gravity again. So you have to explain what happened. Why isn't there any evidence of this 100 joules of energy released to the universe? There's no heat, there's no anything to account for it. So it's just a fable, it's just a story. Everything's just fine. In Newton's world, everything is just fine. You started with 100 momentums, let's say, and you finished with 100 momentums. There's no problem here. It's all just fine. I mean, in this case, 50. We're doing 5 times 10, or 10 times 5. you know, but you're supposed to, if you want to, the truth is, it is, in fact, you want to make joules, you want to make momentum into joules, you just multiply by 2. So it's mv times 2. All right. And that gives you the same numbers. Gives you the appropriate number in joules or watts. All right. So there's no reasoning. They haven't applied any statement or explanation for how they could lose half the energy and in fact have no bent cart and have no evidence of it. And again, if they could show you a bent cart, if they could show me that the wheels are flat, and that it wasn't gravity that did it, that it was part of the rotational energy that was stolen, if they could show it, wouldn't I simply say, well, how could I bend the cart, deform it, and not lose momentum? I mean, don't I have to use momentum to do work in the universe? How could I possibly do it some other way? A bowling ball has to hit the pins for the pins to fall down. I can't just throw an invisible bowling ball and make the pins fall down. I have to use real momentum to knock pins down. All right, so that's argument number 1. All right, the second argument, the one for, Toady has done a few videos, and one was in the other live room we did, where he did quite a good job of matching the speeds, and it was he got a good piece of video of it. So we'll play that, and so it just illustrates a point. Now I'm just saying these are just logical arguments. You can't really, you have to apply logic to experiments. That's the context. So the idea is if you're going to say there's an object, okay, and you're going to give it energy, okay, some sort of joules worth, all right, and it's moving into a collision, the obvious statement would be is if I have one object that has 200 joules, and I have another object that only has 100 joules, and they're going to crash into each other, what would be the rational expectation? And well, the rational expectation is that the heavier object will in fact push the collision, okay, in its direction. So if a truck hits a car, right, it moves the whole collision with it because it has more energy. Now the real issue is the facts are, I think, is that the only thing that decides which way the collision goes, who wins the tug of war, is momentum, and kinetic energy has nothing to do with it. So again, we have another example where kinetic energy is incapable of doing work. Okay, it doesn't do any. So how could anybody think it's worth paying any attention to? How can it mean something if it can't do work? And that would be work. Pushing something else, pushing a collision in a direction is doing work. All right. And so this experiment of Toady's completely verifies the fact that, yes, I can do this exact experiment. I can put something with twice the kinetic energy into the experiment. The two things will collide, and they will behave as if they were completely identical in terms of their ability to do work. And they will reflect, okay, from the same location they crashed, showing they have the same capacity to do work. the same energy. So if you're going to argue this one has twice the energy, you really have to explain, well, why is that energy incapable of moving the collision in its direction? Why is it incapable of winning the tug of war? If it has twice the energy, why can't it win the tug of war? Oh, that's right. Yeah, we'll wait for the answer, and the answer will not be provided, okay? The counter argument will not be provided. That explicit question will not be answered because it can't be rationally answered. If it's real energy, it has to push the collision. It's obviously not real energy. All right. So leave us, voyage to the video, where I shall demonstrate. Not that idiot. Okay. Not that idiot. Yes, this good person video. All right, so we'll play this again, even though I already played it. Just we'll get to the pertinent part here, where there is the collision. All right. In slowest motion.
That was close.
That was close. I reckon that was pretty close.
So the idea is to have the collision happen in the center. One object's going to fall twice as long in time as the other object. That's how it's going twice as fast as it has to fall twice as long in the gravity. It has to be in the gravity twice as long to gain twice the energy. I mean, it's so obvious, people. Come on. All right, so you have the the single mass going twice the velocity. You have the double mass going half the velocity. So it's dropped from 1/4 the distance. So it's only falling a very small distance. The other one's falling a very large distance. And yet when they collide, no evidence of this 4 times the energy stuff. It doesn't happen. It's not there. There's no sign of it because the collision doesn't move with the thing with twice the energy. So the argument is it has twice the energy, yet it collides with something with half that energy, and somehow the collision doesn't move with the thing with twice the energy. Is that really realistic for you to believe it has twice the energy and yet the collision doesn't move with the object that has twice the energy? Is that really reasonable? Okay. Let's do the super slow motion. So you can see them coming. So the one object has moving. Can you see this? I better check if everything's gone wrong today so far. Well, isn't that wrong? Okay, so they hit, and there's no evidence that this moved off that center line at all. The two mass object just didn't. The collision is in the same place, dead center. All right, and they both leave from that dead center. It just is clear. It will be clear. It will be clear. It will be. I really don't like music on videos. Anyway, so clearly this hasn't moved at all. It's going to go half the velocity when it does, but it wasn't pushed or moved or any of that. So twice the energy didn't move the collision at all. Really, that makes sense to you? The quarterback was unyielding to the thing with twice the energy. You could make the argument. Something comes at it, it just doesn't make any sense. It has to move the collision. And what's really this is revealing is that momentum is in control. Momentum is deciding which way the collision moves. So if momentum is controlling, isn't momentum really the definition of energy and work? Come on. Seems obvious, seems decisive as a logical argument. It just creates, the kinetic energy theory just creates paradoxes. There's just no good reason to cling to it. And especially when it accounts for nothing. In terms of where all the energy go. Where did the extra, energy go? What did it do in the universe? And we'll see no evidence of any of that. All right, so this is one of the experiments where you're just demonstrating where is the evidence of the kinetic energy. One thing's supposed to have twice the energy. Show me. There's no evidence of any show me. There's no evidence of it doing twice the work. So the rest of is just to find other experiments to demonstrate this. And I'm arguing that I suppose until we do the experiment where you actually do take an object with the heavier object with half the velocity and actually use its energy to create the object with twice the energy, the half mass with twice the velocity, as the lever can do, that experiment is the prover, because you're making free energy. So when Brozo did that experiment, the one I just described, and he basically did it, he did in fact make free energy, in the sense he didn't really convert it directly, but he used the same spring compression. And the same spring compression produced the two outcomes: 200 joules in one configuration, 100 joules of energy in the other configuration. And there was no explanation where you could have possibly lost 100 joules of energy. Okay, I mean, where you've lost half the energy in one case. So until he can come up with that reasoning, okay, that experiment is also pretty much a gigantic piece of evidence that momentum runs the universe, and kinetic energy is an invisible man who's incapable of picking anything up. So they basically, it's one thing to believe in an invisible man, then explain how he moves things in the universe and show the things moving. But they believe in an invisible man that can't move anything. It can't deform metal. It can't make sounds. It can't do anything. Only momentum can do it. And it can't make momentum. And so you're saying, why would you believe in an invisible man that can't pick anything up? Can't touch anything, can't move anything? Why? What's the point? So it's a completely meaningless invisible man. They must, but they're forcing everybody to believe it. They'll call you an idiot if you don't believe in their invisible man that can't touch or pick up anything and can't do anything. So he can never commit a crime. I can't use him in court to say he murdered my wife, because, he can't move anything. He can't do anything. I mean, it is so... the word insipid, just popped into my head, because this is an insipid argument to have with adults, frankly. And again, there'll be no response to these points as they are raised. None. There'll be no counter argument, no explanation of how what I just said is wrong. Nothing. Okay. All right. So we'll go back to the de-Hilster thing and play just a little bit of that. And I already declared it too irrelevant a subject for anybody to care. And then the Hassenpfeffer thing, we can do that any old time, because that's a regular video. But yes, here I am cheating because I'm playing the live room at the wrong speed, so it might as well just be a regular video too. So I'm just sort of breaking the live fun thing. So we might as well not do it. Yeah, that's what it comes down to. So anyway, the de-Hilsters they're trying to use this John Chappelle organization. So you got these, half dozen people with all kinds of wacky theories, and somehow they're going to write a book of wacky theory. It's not going to be some kind of book that's all coherent and all uses the same rules. Somehow you're going to go from chapter to chapter and read completely different stories, and they're not going to be about the same subject, and it's going to be all over the place. And so of what value that would be, I can't imagine. Who would want to read it? Not me.
But we're going to really have to limit everything to a number of pages. And like 3 pages was what I kind of am thinking. And then what happens is you can then put references to what else you're doing. So I know, again, there's people I don't include in here. Again, this is just me off the top of my head. This is not, please don't send me email. You're choosing only people you'll... No. There's a lot of things in here I don't agree with. That's not even the point. The point is for us to put together the best of what we have and put that in here. This is not a comprehensive book.
Right, so it's not useful, because you're not going to prove anything. You're not going to demonstrate anything with really evidence. You're just going to allow everybody to tell their little fable. Okay, so it's going to be a 3-pig story, and then there'll be a 3 blind mice story, and there'll be a gingerbread house story, and then a Red Riding Hood story, and they're all going to be stories, and there might be a tiny grain of truth in each one, where one of them will have a real thing in it, like, the 3 Bears, he has a cigar, on the mantle. So there'll be a real cigar somewhere now and then. There'll be a real hat. Red Riding Hood has a real red hat, and it's a rational hat. You know, it's not too poofy or too wacky. So yeah, you'll have one little piece in the whole slop that has something to do with reality, and the rest of it will just be absolute fucking talking mice crap. So, except to entertain the trolls, I just don't see what point the book would have until you get to the point where you actually argue subjects, and instead of just saying Einstein is wrong, you actually show him to be wrong.
We have Glenn Porter, who is, in my opinion, probably our top scientific philosopher. We play tectonics. We have author Stephen Hurrell talking about the problems with dinosaurs and mechanically. Dennis McCarthy, he talks about problems with flora and fauna. You got flowers in one.
Yeah, and he's not going to do it with any kind of authority or consistent with all the counter arguments that have already been made. So it's just going to be some guy telling us his UFO story. Because he won't obey the rules. I mean, frankly, it's already been demonstrated. There's nothing miraculous about dinosaurs. They did have big, giant bones. They, so I mean, it's just, you're just playing this game of pretending that somehow they weren't geometrically or structurally correct. They were. I mean, it's a fable. It's like bumblebees can't fly. Well, of course they do fly. Okay, physics doesn't say they can't. That's just bullshit. Physics just says, well, they're really optimized because they're getting away with murder, so to speak, in terms of creating a shitty flying machine. But damn, they do it well.
A Pacific island that's nowhere else on the planet, and it's on the coast of South America, and the only way to explain how that is to
create some wacky theory that the Earth is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, it's just too fucking silly. And the moon is getting bigger and bigger, I guess, too, and it's going further and further away because obviously the biology over the last million years has been quite dependent on the lunar cycle. So you'd have to explain how the lunar cycle was the same. Too stupid. I mean, so many ways to debunk any notion that this is taking place, and they won't pay any attention to all those arguments because no one's going to go to the trouble, frankly, because you're just a bunch of nutters talking nuttery. And instead of actually doing extensive argumenting about these specific individual subjects, you just make these vague statements. We've proven Einstein wrong. We've done this. We've done that. And you're just as guilty as regular conventional physics because you haven't proven any of it. All right. So, on that. All right. Let's see if there's any. I'll pop out the chat so I can see it more conveniently. All right. I should have looked here first, right? Because maybe something else is broken in this video and I'm not paying attention. Oh, God, it's just so irritating. All right. Look, shit happens, Can't. I am human. I'm only human. Let's see. Are there examples where sound, deformation, etc. do reduce momentum? Well, I'm saying two cars head-on collide, right? You're not talking about dropping weights on them and making sound that way, right? So you're not talking about some other source of energy that could be creating the sound. So yes, the sound would come out of the collision. And you see that, right? I mean, the stuff, obviously all the deformation absorbs a ton of energy. I mean, there's nothing like a Newton's cradle reaction when two cars hit each other, right? It's, obviously they spin around a little bit, some little pieces fly off, this and that happens, and it moves 10 or 15 feet away. You know what I mean? It's not... So, yeah, there's plenty of examples. The idea is to try to create the optimum experiment. So, I mean, the next step for Toady is to try, spring. Try some rubbery substance between the two balls and see if he can make a cleaner contact, and exchange the energy more completely. Now the trick will be is the spring will absorb the impact and then divvy it up in both directions. So that'll be interesting. But again, I'm just saying in this classic experiment, there's no way to hide what's going on, right? I mean, you really are conserving the momentum. Like I said, if you watch the experiments on YouTube, it's always very close to exactly half the speed. It's just a tiny little fraction that you lose. And in the case of plastic cars and, we're talking about 1 kilogram masses, the sound is commensurate. You barely hear him drop the weight. You barely see the car move in any other, in any jittery way. Okay, it's very clean. So your expectation is, yeah, it should be very little losses because it didn't make a big sound and the plastic didn't break and there is no deformation. So of course the momentum should be conserved. But somehow you lost half the kinetic energy. That's their argument. Half the energy disappeared from the universe. They won't show you where it went because they'll just say deformation and heat and but they'll never show you any of that stuff actually took place. Just like I can make the argument that when something rolls 4 times the distance, because it has twice the velocity, they'll never show you that it's 4 times the heat absorbed into the ground. And I'll make the simple argument that it's obviously only twice the heat absorbed into the ground. If they actually tested it, I will predict they will not find 4 times the heat in the ground. Because if they put the experiment on a scale, the scale's only going to read, okay, twice the time. That's all the scale's going to see. The weight was only on it twice the amount of time. It can only be twice the weight. Twice the momentum. Twice the force. Alright. So that's the for the chatters. Okay, so maybe we'll do the brozo thing, just because there are lots of experiments that we could talk about, and all of them have catches. And the fact is the cheaters, okay, the non-scientific fanatics defending religious theology, essentially, they believe based on faith. So I'm saying show me. They say this kinetic energy exists. They say it takes 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast. I say show me. They say I believe in Jesus. That's what they say, okay? They say they believe it without ever seeing it. They don't need to see evidence. I do. That's the difference between me and them. And I need to understand, when I see an experiment, I do this logic thing to it. And I say, well, if you're going to say it has exactly this, it saved all the momentum. One tiny little piece of momentum lost. Saved all the momentum. Yet, I lost 100 joules worth of deformation and noise and sounds. And I did all that without using anything called momentum. How could that ever make sense to you people? How can you bend and break things without using something's momentum? It makes no sense at all. As a starting, that's the starting gun for the conversation. The conversation is already over. You're going to do work without using momentum. That's what you're saying to me. You're saying I don't need no stinking momentum to do work. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing to say. Because I have extra kinetic energy to use. Alright. So, to the brozo crap, I guess. Well, I have to load the comments in here. So, that should be available now. There it is, right? No, that's not it. That's it. Okay. Yeah, there it is. Alright, so I need this and I need that. And then we'll go to the comments, which are not there, which are here. Okay. So Toady did make a comment to Brozo saying, let's set things straight. I'm just a, innocent bystander here. Please don't call me names, without knowing me better, or something like that. And, oh, look at all this. Look at all of that he typed. Look at all of this. Look how amazing. Watch it. He's got 3 comments here. That's only one of them. Oh, no. You can't do this to me. I mean, that could take days for me to get through all this crap. He's got another comment where he goes through everything that ever happened on the internet in the last 25 years. And it's all lies. And it's just, oh shit, I have to debunk all of those lies. I mean, it's going to just take so long to have to do that. But anyway, hi Toady. So this is after Brozo has really said some very derogatory things about Toady. Okay, really insulting. Anyway, glad to talk, and I respect your position. So you obviously don't, and you obviously haven't. You presumed him guilty, and you've called him all kinds of ragged names. Okay. Yes, a meetup would be fine by me. All right, so Teddy was actually suggesting he would go to Brozozy in town. It's just like, I guess that's an island thing, that, it isn't that big a deal to go from one place to another in Great Britain, I guess, just because it's an island and, how long can it take? But I wouldn't even, you had plague in Great Britain, right? Really bad. So, I wouldn't do any, I wouldn't go to Brozo's down. Anyway, yes, a meetup would be fine by me if it helps at all. I don't really see how you going there to verify that Brozo has the proper number of cockroaches pushing the cart would at all be impressive, but fine, whatever. Okay. None of my business. Go about your business. It's your deal. Do as you wish. But I'm just pointing out that this character has no character. But whatever, you want to do some money exchanges, go ahead. I'm quite polite as you, so that's just hilarious. This is a guy, right, who posts a video, his first video, where he's showing what a great scientist he is, and he takes girls, in half-dressed kind of thing, doing exercise videos, doing this motion in the exercise video. I mean, that's how seriously he takes this shit. I mean, it's just hilarious. Anyway, I got drawn into all the drama after making a good start communicating with Gary. Yeah, it started off because you were lying to me, okay? So it started off like this guy said he wanted to do experiments. I repeatedly said, yeah, that's great, but I'm not going to pay for them, okay? So I made it clear that I'm really not interested in financing a bunch of experiments for which we had no idea if it would work or not work. So the idea was like, Lewin did a radar experiment. And I was like, well, I don't see the point in trying to do that. Let's find somebody who has the little horny things and let them do it. That was my statement. That was my suggestion. That was everything I said was, no, let's not do that one. Let's try to get the people who actually have the equipment do the experiment. That was my advice. So without telling me or saying anything to me, he went out and bought a whole pile of this crap. He bought amplifiers and dishes and, synchronons and all kinds of crap. And I was like, whatever. We had only vaguely gone over how we would even construct the experiment to try to dissect why Lewin's experiment came out the way it did. All right, so my simple argument was, so I don't want to really change the subjects, but I mean, this is another decisive argument. But my simple argument is that, say if you have, the whole two-slit experiment depends on the fact that, for visible light, okay, you can't create an interference pattern, unless the light is on the same side, right? I can't send light from two different sides and detect it and all that kind of stuff and have any hope of it interfering. But radar you can, because you're just collecting it with one antenna. All right. So the idea would be, they're saying that the stuff has to interfere in space and then it lands on the surface interfered with. But the interference happens in space. The beams of energy or the wavicles or whatever bang into each other and interfere and, like water. And my simple argument is bullshit. And a way of proving that is the radar experiment, because I can create exactly the same pattern, sending the radar from the two sides. So instead of having one path length difference this way and a path length difference this way and having them bang into each other, okay, to create the interference, I can do it where they're coming from opposing sides and they're hitting the same antenna. So I can eliminate the possibility that they banged into each other to interfere. So I get rid of the whole wave thing, okay, and point out that I can create exactly the same path length differences. I can have one of them, do this when this one's doing that, and I can create the same path length differences, the same exact on-off pattern, and there's no hope of interference. They can't have interfered with each other because they never crossed each other. They never banged into each other. So if that's true, and it is a proven fact, I think, yeah, isn't that a real game over for wave theory? Doesn't that basically say this doesn't have anything to do with going through two slits and interfering with yourself and all that? None of that can be true. If that's an explicit fact, and it's already a proven fact because your car radio does it all the time. Your car radio gets in between two different signals coming from opposite sides, all right, and you end the two signals are on the same frequency, because they're, both towns are broadcasting on that wave, and that wavelength, that frequency. And it happens all the time where the car will say, yes, I can hear one of them, or it'll say, no, I can't hear either one of them because it's being jammed, because the two signals are coming at the same time, and the radio has no idea that that's going on. I mean, not at the same time. And it doesn't know which one to pick on. It doesn't know which one to catch, because they're coming in at off frequencies, which make it impossible. So I'm just saying it's already a proven fact that that's how it actually works, that the beams don't interact in space to create interference. It's already a proven fact. Well, anyway, that's what he was supposed to be doing. And again, we weren't supposed to be doing the radar experiment. I was suggesting, well, maybe we can do the radio experiment. You just have to be careful of the FCC thing. You can't make too strong a signal, blah, blah, blah. So I was in the process of trying to think of a good experiment. I hadn't even gotten to the here's the exact experiment we should do part. And he already committed. He already bought a whole bunch of stuff, and he kept saying, no, I'm doing it for my own interest. I'm doing it because I'm interested. I want to know the answer, blah, 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 blah. And then later, he says, I owe him. I didn't ask him to do a damn thing, okay? And I certainly didn't suggest any of the extent to which he jumped in all the way. I wasn't willing to jump in all the way. I didn't say jump in all the way. I said exactly the opposite. And this cunt, this piece of shit liar, okay, turned me into somebody who asked him to do something, and like I somehow owe him something. I never asked him to take an interest. I never asked him to pick up a screwdriver. I never asked him to do a fucking thing. And then he decided to try to control my life and my agenda. And then it was all in the pretext of this lie that he was going to help me prove my theory when he was doing exactly the opposite. He was nothing but a spy. Okay. All right. We liked one another and saw various good things in each other. Yeah, I was really grateful that somebody was willing to go to all this trouble, and it was frankly very useful to my purposes if I understood his motives correctly. But I didn't understand his motives correctly. Okay. I still do kind of like Gary in a strange way and wish we could get on. Yeah, well, isn't that an amazing statement? I mean, it's an amazing statement in the context of how he has deliberately attempted to sabotage everything I believe in, everything I care about, every notion of decency in this fucking pissy shit universe, and then says something like that. Are you fucking insane, you creep? I clearly have no good wishes towards your life adventure, you fucking piece of shit. Alright, notwithstanding certain things he says on non-scientific matters best kept separate. Well, if it's best kept separate, why do you keep ragging on about such things and feeding lying trolls, okay, with your reward points? Why are you rewarding people who dox people, who post images of people's houses, who do all kinds of despicable behavior? Why the fuck do you keep saying good job to those assholes? You fucking piece of pus. Alright. Things only turned out sour when he found me discussing... No, he didn't... This is such a pile of shit. It has nothing about him discussing, okay, his Asperger's with Holiday. It has to do with direct comments he made to Holiday in public on comment boards saying, how I'm wrong and stubborn and, I got it totally wrong and I've tried to teach him. Oh, I've tried so hard to teach him how it really works. He did this kind of crap, okay, on Holiday's public comment board. This wasn't about you talking about your putrid little silly Asperger crap. Yes, I mocked your Asperger crap because that's generally speaking what just welfare whores do in America. They just walk in and say, I like to read comic strips all day. There, disabled, right? There. I mean, it's this perfect way to get yourself a welfare check. Is just to say, I'm Aspergered. There. It's just too stupid. Anyway, there's no blood test for it, Just pretend. Yeah, just pretend and you get away with it. It's just such weaselly horseshit. Oh, I can't get along with people. Yeah, either can I. So fucking what? I can't get along with people because they're fucking assholes. Not because I have an Asperger. Oh, fuck. They have a shithead. Okay? It's not my Asperger's, it's their shithead. Oh, God, a fucking bastard. Anyway, things only turned out sour when he found me discussing my mental health issues with a fellow sufferer. So this is a lie. Absolute fucking lie. I couldn't give a fuck about your conversations with Holiday about how deeply you shoved your fingers up each other's asses. I don't give a rat's ass. I cared because you proved you were not on my side. That you have intended from the fucking beginning to sabotage me. Alright, you little motherfucker. You were a little lying putz talking about how you're going to prove me fucking goddamn wrong when you were pretending to be my ally. You piece of shit. Alright, wait. No point in getting angry, but he's just such a fucking liar. Alright. Hathaway, Gary's number one enemy. Yeah, well that, again, he wasn't my number one enemy, by the way, okay? He was just one of the only assholes who would actually talk about the actual subjects. And yes, he was defending the conventional Mashola. Alright, but I bet you if Hathaway was still alive, he wouldn't be on your side now, fucker. Alright. He found that disrespectful, so that didn't happen, although no disrespect was intended. Your comments were clearly insulting my integrity. They were patronizing and insulting in all kinds of different ways where you just revealed how you really thought about me. Alright? And yes, it was really offensive, so fuck you. Alright. I just welcomed the chance. See, obviously Holiday wouldn't find the conversation very interesting if he was saying things like, well, I think Gary's a great guy and you should take his arguments more seriously. He obviously wasn't saying that to Holiday. You can quite understand. There's no way he could say nice things about me to Holiday and expect Holiday to say, oh, yeah, that's real. No. So, yeah, just how much do you believe this fake story? Alright, I just welcome the chance to talk a little bit about Asperger syndrome. So see, it's such a lie. Alright, anyway, I don't want to tell you the whole story. Well, because that would require you maybe to try actually some factual statements rather than these three pigs bullshit fables you'll tell you. Because that will be just dragging you into a drama you've made clear you don't want part of. So the real truth is what really triggered Brozo is that I just pointed out how this Asperger thing, I don't have any respect for it. Now, I didn't say Aspergers are just trying to steal money from the government. I didn't say any of that. But I just implied that this isn't a real disease. Get fucking real. I can't get along with people. Come on. That's not a disease. Shit. Anyway, too silly. I can't understand what they're talking about. It's just so, you know what I mean? It's just so silly that, I don't know what's rude. I don't know I'm being rude. Come on. Too silly. Especially when coming from people as, this Brozo character gets all upset because the other Sparkies laughed at him because he wasn't very good at climbing telephone poles. He certainly knows what hurt his little feelings. So how come he doesn't know what hurts other people's feelings? I mean, just a bullshit argument, right on its face, just bullshit. I'm still feeling quite ill since my hasty response to your other comment on my bouncing carts video. So again, he's just, he's really obsessing about the video where he says, now, you don't need no, I don't need no quick release. And what's wrong with pushing springs all the way to their limit? I mean, what's wrong with compressing them all the way against a wall? Why is that a problem? Anyway, there's a better version of that without the overlay distraction, your view. So, he's admitting that it's almost pretty much Asperger retarded for you to post a video with an experiment and then put text on top of the entire video. The entire video has text on top of it. You can't see any of the fucking experiment through all the fucking bullshit text, and it's the same text for the whole video. Like, everybody's too stupid. I need you to really read this very, very slowly. So take the full 15 minutes to read the 17 words I put on the screen. Anyway. I was explaining how ill I had suddenly become while almost completing a long, detailed reply. Anyway, just couldn't finish it for various horrible symptoms. I'm still struggling, but not as much, so I will have to reply to your points properly in a few hours. I mean, wow. I mean, he really, this is his life. Sorry, too silly. just say, look, yeah, I don't feel well. I'll get back to you in a couple of days. That would work. I need to lie down again. I don't want to be sick again. Might be food poisoning. Jesus. Yeah, it might be. He eats garbage. Just saying. Let me just make a start on one point. If I can sum up briefly first, then maybe expand later when I'm less ill. I tested whether electric cars really do use 4 times the energy to go 2x the speed. Now, I don't remember him ever doing any electric car video, with an electric motor moving the car. So that never happened. And they don't. Okay, so they don't use 4x the energy to go twice the speed. Okay, so he's pointing out how he did an experiment, he didn't show it to us. And why? Because guess what? The answer was, hey, kinetic energy didn't work. Now, he has some rationalization for that apparently, but here we go. But the catch is they appear to take more than 4 times the energy to accelerate to that speed in the first place. So, they both take 4 times the energy? I don't know. It's impossible to say what he's saying there, right? I mean, that's just... So he's basically saying it takes 1,000 joules to make, 200 joules of acceleration or something like that. Yes, electric motors are not very efficient. That's just a fact, okay? They're not perfectly efficient. So you will have to put more electricity in, wattage in, than you'll get wattage out of the car if you put a generator on it. Yes, those things, motors do get hot. Anyway, all my tests accelerating electric motors, measuring power as best I could with limited instrumentation, seem to indicate that after being roughly 6-8 times the energy to attain a doubling the speed. I don't know, yes, how the fuck you are measuring that, but the point is there's no difference between the two masses, so that's the part that's important. The only part that you should be paying attention to are relative comparisons. Things that are the same for both, inefficiencies, those don't matter. The thing they're trying to get to is, does it take 4 times the energy to move an object twice as fast? And what you're shown in your experiments is it doesn't. And that's the part you should take seriously and say, gee, I should try to explain why that's true. Anyway, they then got more or less a free ride, so to speak. I don't know what any of that could mean, but anyway. The quite large tech tape recorder motors went on for over 50 hours on one tiny AA battery. All V brand new from Morrison's own brand. So I don't know. So this was an experiment. Like I said, he didn't show us any of this. Why? Oh, that's right, because the results created doubt that what he was arguing is correct. So nothing special. And then there wasn't much difference when I quadrupled the voltage. So he still doesn't understand the difference between voltage and amperage. So he's a Sparky, right? He's an official electricity guy. And he really doesn't make a distinction between voltage, amperage, and wattage. Wattage is energy. Wattage is the same. 1 watt is the same as 1 joule. That's the part you're supposed to pay attention to, are the wattages. So he doesn't even understand that, okay? Voltage is like velocity, and amperage is like mass. Anyway. My money is a bit hazy. My memory is a bit hazy, although I have a video of it which has been up about a year. Where the hell was that? I didn't see that one, frankly. Okay, including graphs, etc. You think maybe I have tested double voltage too. So again, it's really, voltages are just one specific part of the wattage. You have to do the wattage test, okay? The subject's about momentum and energy. It's not about voltage and amperage. Alright, it was the most tedious experiments I ever did, videoing a total of about 100 hours of heavy 2 tape reels going round and round. Oh, I remember the tape reels. Oh, okay, so that's what he was somehow testing the motors with tape reels. Oh, please. Yeah, too silly. Desperately hoping the batteries would run out soon. I don't know why you would do that, frankly. As if the batteries were a good way to test. Although my memory is a bit hazy, I don't claim this to be the world's greatest experiment or anything. It was better than nothing after someone gave Gary a link to a proper test on Teslas. There was no proper test, but the page had been removed, so no one got to see it. So I stepped in, hoping to resolve the matter a bit because I was curious too. So again, the argument would be it's, far from ideal until you know exactly at what voltage. Every motor runs better at some voltage than other voltages, okay? And so you're back to it. And obviously the amount of amperage is going to define the total end product of wattage. And so you have to explain all that first. So he did another experiment where we put a generator on the wheel of the carts and then did this preposterous line that he does in the other comment section where he says he's measuring the wattage when he's clearly only measuring voltage, because any light bulb only lights when it gets up to a minimum voltage. It'll produce no light at a lower voltage. It'll just create heat. So you could argue that something could be a non-lit light bulb, but it still consumed an awful lot of electricity. Alright, I tried everything I could to simulate a bumpy road, snapping the energy. Zapping the energy. So again, well, anyway, that's just no point. I hoped by attaining large masses to the reels, so attaching large masses to the reels to put them out of balance. I don't know why you'd want to do that. How would you measure how much you're losing to the irregularity of the imbalance in the wheel? And there was, for at least 3 miserable days, videoing in one spot, a wobbly tape recorder, only to have to start again after 20 hours. Something went drastically wrong, like the tape deck falling off through all the wobbling. So I'm glad I didn't see these experiments, frankly. I never upload that video because it would be the most boring video on YouTube, having to be split into 6 10-hour videos. Well, you haven't heard of you can really edit a video down in time, no problem. But I don't know why you would bother. How is this I don't even know how that's an experiment, frankly. You're testing Duracell batteries against Energizer Bunny batteries, and what the fuck are you doing? Well, anyway, puts a break in the comment. Okay, so I think the 4x fuel thing is a myth apart from acceleration. How can you say that? I mean, how can you, look at what he just said. I think the 4x fuel thing is a myth apart from acceleration. That's the whole story. The whole point is that it's saying to you overtly. What do you think you're doing when you're driving along at a constant, if you put your car on cruise control, do you think your car doesn't accelerate all the time? All the time. It slows down, it reaccelerates. It slows down, it reaccelerates. It slows down, it reaccelerates. I mean, the whole subject is acceleration. There's no other subject. Acceleration is just the change in your velocity. You have to change your velocity if your friction is taking energy away from you. Then you have to put force back in to make up for what the friction took. That's an acceleration. I mean, it's just an amazingly stupid comment. Except for the acceleration, I don't consider it a real fact. So he's trying to weasel out of the 4x fuel thing by saying, okay, he knows it doesn't take 4 times the fuel to go twice as fast, except at liftoff or something. So unless you're doing this very, very narrow experiment or just going from 0 to 30 and 0 to 60. But I don't think he thinks that'll work either. I think he knows better. All right. Well, now he's saying it's okay. So I don't think the 4x fuel thing is a myth apart from acceleration. So I think the 4x fuel thing is a myth. So I don't know why he would say he thinks it's a myth. And then he says apart from acceleration, when it is actually a lot more than 4x. So just an amazing statement. Obviously, it's always, if you're going from 30 to 60, you can understand that you've already broken friction, right? But when you're first trying to move something, it always takes more energy because you have to break the friction. You're in a friction hole, and you have to get out of the friction hole before you can start moving. So friction steals a lot. That's why you have Galileo's numbers. It's part of the reason. It's even more exaggerated with actual mechanical friction caused by gravity. Because the heavier you are, it's not only that the slower you go is more friction, it's the heavier you are, the more friction. Both are against you in a circumstance like that. So, as long as you understand that going in, okay, so go from 1 mile an hour to 30, and then go from 30 to 59, okay, and then compare whether you use the same fuel. Someone said this is true of a certain aircraft, but I can't recall the details. Well, I'm sure that was the wacky guy who believes peppers are magnetic. So, anyway, making, geez, I just don't know. Making the reels extremely, so he's back on the, he put a bar there like he was going to change the subject, but he's back on the same subject. Making the reels extremely wobbly didn't actually make any difference either. So you can explain that. You create a bunch of friction, but it didn't make any difference. I guess there's a flaw in your difference detector. Yeah, your difference detector must be broken. Huh. All right, anyway. No one else has commented. Interesting. Anyway, I consider... let's see where I considered minimally applying a asbestos type brakes on tape recorders. Whatever. They have steel band which wraps around. I don't even know what he is doing here. But my concern was that I have no real way to guaranteeing I would be applying the same friction to each reel. Yes, duh. Oh, god damn. Anyway. Running in tandem on different voltages. Even if I could, brake wear might give advantage to one or the other. Well, at least it's not gravitational, right? So at least you're creating a mechanism, but yes, how do you calculate the heat that you've created in the brake material? So yeah, you have to have some way to do that. So that's why Joule had to make a water tank and do all that crap. Now the problem with Joule's experiments is he didn't tie his tank to, a running dog or something. he tied everything to dropping weights and gravity, which is obviously creating the distortion. I didn't run a science lab. I'm just an ordinary bloke. Oh man, ex-electrician who doesn't know the difference between volts, amps, and watts. He really doesn't know the difference, okay? He doesn't understand that you can't measure, you can't go by, oh, I made the LED glow longer, if you're not going to detect how much current actually went through the wire, because LEDs don't turn on until they a minimum voltage. Without the minimum voltage, they don't turn on. And the same is true for filament light bulbs. They don't turn on. I can have a 100-watt incandescent light bulb, and if I only put 50 volts in, I might get no light at all. I mean, they have a minimum voltage. Alright, doing my best on these things for fun, really. So again, he's doing it for fun. He's not doing it because he cares about the fact that there's a scientific truth at stake. The dignity of science is at stake. No, it's just fun. Well, I can honestly say I'm not doing this for the fun of it. Alright, anyway. Wrecking balls. Oh. I don't know if this is a subject worthy of my time, but well, let's just go through it real quick. That claim was always bothering me because there is a pretty obvious flaw in Gary's claim. Oh, yeah, my claim that what? They don't knock buildings down with bullets? Which anyone who tried to build one with half the size wrecking ball would soon realize. Wrecking balls get their energy by being raised to a certain height by the crane thingy. They can do it both ways. They can raise and drop, or they can swing. Yeah. So, you know, it's like bulldozers can lift dirt. You know, they can push it, and they also can lift it. You know, especially if you have a bucket. To get a half-mass wrecking ball to go twice as fast, the crane would have to be able to raise it 4 times higher. Yes, that's perfectly correct. And your argument is, okay, that the crane has to lift it in the moronic way, where it has to lift it over a long period of time. So if it lifts it quickly, I would argue, it's not a problem. If it lifts it insanely slowly, well, yeah, then it's a problem. But it depends on what kind of locking device it has. You know, so as it lifts it, it locks it. But, you know. So this is just back again to, they will pay no attention to the idea that gravity is a time-dependent force. So it's another argument I've made over and over again. But, you know, if you're flying by a gravitational field, okay, all that's going to matter is how long does it take you. How long did you fly across this gravitational field? That's all that's going to matter. The longer it takes you to go through it, the more it'll bend you. The faster you move through it, the less it'll bend you. Because the differential is entirely time dependent. Now, there won't be any counter argument to that. They won't explain how gravity doesn't. There's an experiment that shows that gravity isn't time dependent. No, that's exactly what all the evidence indicates. It's about how long you're in the gravity, how long you're pushing against it. Alright, the obvious problem for the vehicle needing to have both stability and maneuverability to get to the site, possibly narrow streets, etc. Yeah, well, again, all this crap doesn't have anything to do with the fundamental argument that they don't use the advantage of small objects moving fast to knock buildings down. And even the catapulters of old didn't shoot a bunch of small rocks at the, you know, castle. They tried to shoot big rocks at the castle because the big rock would put a lot of energy in one place. And that's what they needed. They didn't need little rocks scattered all over the place. They needed a lot of energy in one place. I mean, as much as it sounds unintuitive, the big rock against a castle is like the bullet against a human. It's a way of concentrating the energy in a smaller area. One big rock, you're saying basically I threw a bunch of little rocks very close to each other. That's the whole idea, is you want them to land in the same location at the same time, so you get a maximum effect against the structure. The physical structure gets a maximum amount of weight hitting the smallest amount of area, and therefore doing the most damage. Where if you spread it out with a bunch of little rocks all over the place, you won't have enough weight in the location you need it. These are all just physical dynamics that, I guess Brozo doesn't know shit about, and so he's just making the crap up as he goes along, as am I to some extent. Okay, we have to do the research, and I just argue I've done much better research than he has, especially on things like trebuchets and catapults, as it gets directly to the subject of what Newton said. You want to double the momentum, the impact, you double the force. Force is momentum. Alright. If the base has to be made larger, heavier, okay, we don't need all that. I like to think the engineers who designed the ones we do use, isn't that just too silly? Took into account all the pros and cons. I mean, yes, obviously. You have to, obviously you don't use a 500-ton crane to knock down an outhouse, or a porta potty, But the truth is, if you're really knocking down a rough structure, that's why they make 4-ton, okay? They actually do make them 4-ton wrecking balls. I've seen one in video, wrecking things. Alright, anyway, let's see. As with all things, it must obviously be a compromise between all the varying factors. Well, anyway, it doesn't have anything to do with the fundamental argument. That the fact is, okay, that this is what energy is really about, is how you distribute it. And the argument is that clearly there's no advantage. You don't get advantage by increasing velocity. There's no extra energy created. It's just going to be about the momentum you can deliver. And you keep arguing that there's this magical extra energy involved every time I go down in weight and up in velocity, I'm gaining huge amounts of energy. So we're back to the bowling ball argument. Okay, where you say to me the 8-pound ball going twice as fast has twice as much energy, and I say, show me, fucker. Because that makes no sense in the real world, where wrecking balls are big and bowling balls by professionals are heavy. Okay, so you can say that crap all you want, but it's clearly not consistent with the experimental experiments that professional bowlers do every day. Professional bowlers do the experiment every day, and they have decidedly concluded there's no fucking advantage going lighter and faster. Alright, I think they would be stacked on the spot when they found themselves having to make the most colossal, wide, heavy crane to achieve a doubling of the speed, because height is the only thing they would work with to make it go at all. So again, you create the height by creating momentum horizontally also. But there is time it would take to be raised the height again, and would be fourfold. So again, he keeps saying it's fourfold, even though, no, if you raise it twice, if you raise it only taking twice the time, you'll only use twice the energy. So again, another lie. Alright, and the swing area will go up considerably more room, since the radius of the arc has to be the swing through 4 times greater. Right, but you don't have to do the 4 times. You have no obligation to double the speed. You can increase the speed by 0.2 or 0.4 or any number you like, and with all of that you get an increase in the momentum commensurate with that increase. Alright, and what about that 4 times greater arc also swings through the building it is demolishing? So we know that the crane doesn't just swing the weight, it accelerates the weight. So it itself, the crane, moves in the direction of the arc it creates. So it moves over and then it swings the weight. So it's not just using gravity, it's using itself to accelerate the ball. So yeah, so like I said, this isn't a very fruitful conversation. Let's just see what these one-liners are. And what about the increased difficulty of hitting the actual target with such a long swing? So obviously you can show the videotape of wrecking balls knocking down buildings. There's a ton of them on YouTube. Not an issue. There may be tons more points of actual engineers to point out, but I'm just applying common sense. Well, you're not applying common sense in the sense you're not showing us them using cannonballs to knock down the building. You know, much smaller objects. They could instead double the mass, and what would that achieve? It's a simple way of increasing the momentum, doubling the momentum. Okay, a shorter crane, a stronger steel cable needed, possibly problems with height it could... So he's just denying the actual truth that exists, that wrecking balls are really heavy, a ton or more. Okay, they really don't make 50-pound wrecking balls. I am confident engineers have already decided on the best compromises, so wrecking balls are probably much of a muchness. Much of a muchness. Anyway, clearly the argument is there, like with the professional bowlers, there's no evidence of the kinetic energy theory being realized in the fact that we don't see this velocity advantage. Alright. The problem I generally find with claims like this is that it only takes sounds to say, if the KE formula is true, why don't they halves the size of the wrecking ball? The argument is that if the energy is, not what you say, so you're conceding it doesn't take 4 times more fuel to go twice as fast. I mean, obviously there's a huge advantage then to just doubling the speed. You're saying I can't throw an 8-pound ball twice as fast as a 16-pound ball. You say I can only throw it 0.4 faster. Substantially less, right? 0.4 is a lot less than 1. It's 0.6 less. So you're saying I pretty much am crippled. Somehow the God stops my arm from moving twice as fast, and I can't throw the 8-pound ball twice as fast. I can only throw it 0.4 faster. So I can only, if I have something going 30 miles an hour, I can only make it go, I can't make it go 60 miles an hour by having the mass. I can only make it go 45 miles an hour. That's your argument. I'm saying there's absolutely no evidence that's true. So show me the experiment that demonstrates that crap. Okay. And make an instant impression on anyone who hasn't stopped to thin. It would, it threw a bit. Yes, you do some thin thinking. But it takes minutes to explain exactly why that claim is clearly false. So the bowling argument. Okay, the people generally lose patience listening, so he's just talking about why he can't explain, not why he will not explain. They can't puffer the story short bits that Gary specializes in because they require no actual thinking. So he's calling them the shorty sound bites. So I go to the trouble of drawing it extensively, repeating it over and over again, and talking about it ad nauseum, and he calls that the shorty sound bites. I mean, again, what is that but an insane lie? Yeah, that's what that is. He's the one about shorty sound bites, right? Go watch his videos. He actually made a video that was like 8 seconds long. I mean, he's the one, quote mining, using the punchline, and he makes the images go bing, 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 bing. He's about all that crap. He's just such a liar. I see as a good thing when people raise such questions, as long as they are willing to listen. Well, you're not even providing the place to go listen, okay? You've never made a video talking about a single theory ever, okay? You have no conceptual understanding. You can't have the conversation because you don't know the difference between volts, amps, and watts. You're an idiot. Anyway, to the answers. But that stopped happening a long time ago. It has become purely personal from Giz's point of view. I guess that's his. So he's gone from saying Steve is a lovable guy. Yeah, I did call you eccentric. Let's just put it in let's just say the right words, okay? I said he's an interesting, nice, eccentric person. But yes, I clearly pointed out your eccentricities. All right, who does important experiments? And I didn't say that. So anyway, I said it was really nice of you to do experiments. I didn't say you did really great ones. Anyway, 6 years ago, to Steve is a clown, a cheat, and I don't know, CHMS, yeah, child molester. Okay. Yeah, that's just because he constantly lies about everything that's ever happened in my life, so, yeah. We might as well do the same thing to him, right? I mean, my internet went out for 10 days, and he claimed he had some reason to believe it didn't happen. That somehow I was hiding in the corner from one of his videos, and it was just a ludicrous argument, especially after the huge, it's a huge aggravation when the cable company pretends they lost your account, and all of a sudden you don't have any cable, you don't have any internet access. It's a huge nastiness if your whole life, my phone works on the internet, everything, So, I mean, it really was a catastrophic event, and I have this little cunt weasel saying it didn't happen. That's not the behavior of some nice person. That's, that kind of slander and nonsense. It's the behavior of a fucking creep, and so he has little kids' toys in his house. What other purpose are they there for except to seduce the little darlings, into his lore. Anyway, he actually says these things without batting an eyelid. And so do you. So I'm just saying, you lie about my life all the time, about what happened between us all the time, and so you deserve to be lied about. I mean, what other weapon do I have against your lies? I mean, if it was practical to sue you in Britain, okay, I would, but it's just really not practical to do it from here at this time. I mean, I can get you convicted in an American court, and then they can stop you from getting a passport, without answering my claims. But I mean, it's, there's no real way to do it other than, a whole big giant procedure, you little fuck. Anyway, but enough said. Yeah, whatever. And then he says some more. All right, I feel dead rough still. I don't know how I'm plugging through. I really wanted to finish my other reply to you on the bouncing carts. I mean, you're just like, oh fuck this bouncing cart crap. So again, it's just a friction argument again. They keep thinking how long something moves means it has more energy when they're not taking the energy from it in a consistent way. It's just too stupid. When I stumbled on this comment, I don't yet know how many you have posted. I assume just the one. But it's good to talk. Did you talk in some way? Did you in any way really respond to Toadie's what he wrote? No. Okay, I've got to go before I need that bucket again. Well, whatever. All right. That's what, hanging out with kids is probably what you just picked up a virus, moron. That's what hanging out with kids will do. Anyway, think about the smaller size hole and the smaller ball would make in a building. Plus, what problems are there trying to solve? None. Think about the smaller size hole a smaller ball would make in a building. I don't know how that's an argument. It's not a known problem. They know how hard they want to smack against the wall. Smacking it harder won't demolish a bigger area. Well, yeah, it technically will. You can knock down much bigger hunks of stuff if you can give the big giant hunk any kind of motion. You can topple it, okay, by tipping it. And you need mass to do that. You need it to absorb the energy, and it absorbs slow motions easier than it absorbs fast motions. If something's going to hit you and move you, if you were made out of steel or cement, the fast, light thing will bounce off you. The heavy thing will give you its velocity much better. So the slower it's going, the more likely it is to give you velocity. The faster it's going, the less likely. Fact of steel. Now it's the opposite for us mushy bags of water. You want to knock down a bag of water, yeah, it's a whole different strategy. You poke a hole in the bag of water. All right. But if you want to knock down a cement building, you don't do it with bullets. So anyway. So it's so stupid. So that was a PS, and then he says part 3. So apparently he's not on his deathbed. Look at all this crap. Oh my God. This never stops. 18 minutes ago. Fuck. Let's see if there's any comments. Come on, commenters, save me. You can't comment something? Maybe there's comments and I can't see them because did I change the chat? Yeah, I did change the chat, right? Oh no, I did change it. So that's all that's here. There's nobody here. You fuckers. Where are you when I need you? Yeah, it's nothing there. Let's see if I restore it, what it does. Well, I don't really want to restore it. Somebody type something. I'll type something. Just see if it works. Oh, there. Yeah, it worked. Yeah, okay. Alright, fuck you people. You suck. Alright, how many are you? There, it's only 12. Okay. Still, you should be able to produce something. I have to do all this brutal reading of tripe. Where the hell is it? I lost my link. Alright, you might say, someone woke me up from my badly needed sleep, so I might as well explain the main reason. Okay, the main reason his bowling ball experiment argument falls flat on its face the minute you talk to professionals who actually play the game competitively. So this ought to be quite hilarious. Now, they don't do bowling in England, right? I mean, 16-pound ball, 8-pound ball kind of bowling, right? They do that other Canadian thing or whatever it is. Anyway, Gary overrides their expertise because he's been in a bowling alley. Whoopee. So the pros must be wrong when they I don't understand. What are you talking about? The pros must be wrong. I mean, they're all using 16-pound balls. And so I guess he's interviewed the pros. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't realize he's interviewed all the pros. So I may as well explain the main reason. So here he is. Fails. Okay. Actually play the game competitive. Gary overrides their expertise because he's been a bowling alley. Okay, sorry about this. So the pros must be wrong when they explain it's a game of skill, not brute speed. So if you really, I don't think there's any way he could have ever watched a professional bowling competition and not recognized that they're trying to maximize the speed of the ball and the angle at which it hits the pins. It would be a ludicrous argument, frankly. They are trying to achieve a very definite speed. So they don't want too fast a ball. Is that true? No, that's not true. Okay, they think they said something between 9 and 21 miles per hour. But it has been ages since I heard their explanation of the technique they employ, which is not you two try to smash into them at 40 miles an hour, but to controllably make the ball bend. Now, obviously, yes, obviously there's oil, okay, on the alley, and they want to hit the pins at the maximum, the best angle, and the best angle is like a 40-degree angle. So, the oil is on the first 3/4 of the track, and then it's dry where the pins are. So the ball starts off spinning in the oil, and then hits the dry part and crashes into the pins. But you can do that really fast, or you can do that really slow. That is, you can play for a lot of, a slow ball with a high degree, okay, of spin, and then a fast ball with less spin. Anyway, but they're still going to want to get the most momentum to the pins at the optimum angle. All right, anyway, there's no point in getting into all this. So his excuse is is even though the 8-pound ball going faster has twice the energy, okay, yeah, twice, they're not going to take advantage of that. I'd say bullshit. Okay, that's just the start. Let's see. Well, see, he says they're targeting a specific pin. No, they're targeting 3 or 4 specific pins. They have to hit 4. There's 4 pins. If they hit those 4 pins with the ball, they're almost guaranteed to get a strike. So if they hit the, the head pin, the second pin, the 9 pin, and this whatever pin, if they can hit the ball into those 5 pins, let's say, it's always a strike. So that's what they're targeting. Okay, that's just the start of his, yeah, I don't know, claim. I already did a very careful test, so this is a lie. He doesn't do anything careful, so that's just a lie. Using those massive 2-inch recording tape reels weighing several kilos, representing similar mass bowling balls. So obviously these are rolling objects, it's not bowling balls. Controllably launching them at the requisite speed, that is, you dropped them in gravity, to roll to a series of 1-liter bottles. So again, just absolute bullshit. He rolled tape reels into bottles. Okay. And guess what? The half mass, twice the speed, knocked down considerably more bottles. So we know this is a piece of shit as an experiment, right? So, but anyway, that's his argument. So he's really arguing that the 8-pound ball will knock down more pins. The 8-pound ball going twice as fast will, in fact, knock down more pins. It will push more matter in the universe. Now, he'll never be able to draw a picture of the masses and explain how much energy was given to each mass and how it adds up to this kinetic energy bullshit. So he won't be able to show it being more atoms moved. But anyway, his argument, I use gravity in the mechanism that made them go at the required speed. What possible difference could it make so long as the speeds were accurate? Well, that's the argument, as long as they were accurate. So that's the question. Yeah, were the speeds anywhere near accurate? Okay, I think how strong a bowler's arm would have to be to throw the half-mass ball at twice the speed. So obviously most people think, well, it just have to be the same strength, obviously. If my MV applied, then it wouldn't require any extra effort. If MV applied, then it wouldn't require any extra effort. Yeah, why would it require extra effort? It's a half as massive object. Okay, anyway. And we've already established that they don't want to do that anyway because Gary's describing some other cruder game he imagines. Well, I'm just saying they've written books, okay, where physicists actually argue that the bowlers should be using the 8-pound ball because it's more fucking energy. I mean, you can't deny the more energy part. All right, and it's got to be to a bowler's advantage to get more energy to the pins. It would be really stupid for you to argue that less energy is more energy. All right. He ignores the multiple experiments proving that the same energy input cannot double the speed anywhere even close. So there's no multiple experiments except his experiments, and they suck. So in one of his experiments, I predicted the number 12. He predicted the number 16, and he got the number 14. And he called that confirmation of his theory. So you can see there's no honesty in this statement. I didn't ignore multiple experiments. I ignored garbage. You make garbage claims based on garbage, perversions of the actual reality. And that's all you do. Anyway, we have a chat. Let's see what it is. Chat is here. We are just quite quiet while the parents are fighting. Whatever. I think it's look, I'm just saying he's lying, and what would you do? If somebody's lying about you, what would you do about it? Lying about the actual circumstance. He's lying to Toady. He's just overtly lying to him about what he's done, what exists. And what would you do? I mean, what would your response be? I mean, I have ignored a ton of these lie comments, but don't you think now and then I have to set the record straight? All right, anyway. He ignores multiple experiments. Okay, here we go. And that it always results in half the mass going 1.4x faster at best. So his own experiment, all right, where the billiard balls are launched, absolutely not consistent with that at all. Very consistent with a 2-to-1 relationship, that is doubling the mass, same force, half the mass, twice the speed. Exactly what Professor Lewin stated in arguing for conservation of momentum, basically saying, well, if it's half the mass, it has to be twice the speed. So he just ignores all that and then claims he has established beyond reasonable doubt that you cannot push a half-mass object any faster with the same energy than 1.4. I mean, it's not even 1.6 or 1.8. It's 1.4. I mean, you can't even come close, okay, to making it go twice as fast. Not even close. And he says he's proven that. All right. Bearing mistake like me accidentally letting my half pool ball skid along faster than it should have done. Yes, because you gave it backspin. Okay. Causing an erroneous... It wasn't 1.69, so that's crap. Okay, it was so damn close to 2-to-1. I mean, just watch the video, people. The goddamn yellow ball is clearly going twice as fast. All right. Since corrected, thus achieving the correct 4.1 to 1. We'll upload soon, so we'll see what his correction is. So this will be the big fucking goddamn reveal. He is going to change the experiment to force the result to come out his way. So he's going to do something to force that, 2-mass ball to go faster, or to force the other ball to go slower. So that's what we're going to see. So you're going to see his big lie revealed. I guarantee you he is going to make the experiment worse, not better. He's going to do a much worse experiment. He's going to let the balls roll much further. He's going to do something to fuck it up. Because actually the way he did it the first time wasn't bad. It was a pretty good experiment. And now he's going to degrade it on purpose to force the results to match his authority. Yeah. So he, she, what is that even for? He, she, what does that even mean? I mean, why should... Well, anyway, has double the energy input to actually make it go 2x faster. What? Of course you have to double it to go 2x faster. So he, she has to double the energy input to actually make it go... So he's saying you have to double the energy input to make a half mass go the same speed. No. What is he saying? Oh, 2x faster. So to make the half mass go twice as fast as the heavy mass, yes, you have to put in 4 times the energy. That's his argument, not twice. All right. And they don't want to do it anyway. I don't mean... I'm just stunned. Why do they not want to throw a lighter bowling ball? I mean, it'd be better on their back, I imagine. It is irrational to ignore what the professionals say about their own game. So I don't know where he has these professionals saying it. So he doesn't give us a link to the professionals saying that. And ignore the preponderance of evidence just so he can tout off the words bowling balls every 10 minutes and feel he has made a valid point he has not. So again, he's saying the 8-pound ball going twice as fast does have twice the energy. 4 times the energy. And no bowler can figure out how to take advantage of it, though. They just can't figure out how to do it. So a 10-pound ball has a 15% increase. A 10-pound ball would be actually half, so that would be a full increment of extra energy. It's not twice as much energy, but it's 1.5 the energy. And they don't even take advantage of that. It's not as if he has not had this explained to him. There's nothing to explain. What have you explained? You haven't explained anything. So there was no explanation. There's no explanation anywhere where he explains this bowling argument. So that's just a lie. He just willfully ignores. He willfully ignores what professionals say and dreams up ludicrous excuses for why every experiment shows he's wrong. So again, he keeps saying this every experiment. No bowler has showed me wrong. No bowler has showed the 8-pound ball knocking down twice as many pins. Not a single one has ever come out in his favor. So you've never done those experiments. He just alters people's perception by cherry picking. So again, obviously this guy cherry picks all the time. He never plays one of my videos, never responds to the actual points made in the video, just finds something where I said something the wrong way or something not very well, and then tries to exploit that. So that's clearly the evidence. I'm the one reading his fucking comments. He'll never play my video and then be forced to actually respond to what I draw on the board. Never going to happen. He'll never draw a lever and explain to you how it works. Two numbers that to an unthinking person sounds like 2-to-1 ratio. This 11 versus 19 figure he quote mines from my pool ball experiment does indeed sound like virtually 2-to-1 if you don't round it down to 10 and up to 20. If you don't. Yeah, that's right. But you're just saying, is it reasonable to suspect it's well within the Brozosian margin of error to say that the actual experiment was 10 and 20? And that it's just Brozosian error that is responsible for the tiny fluctuation from that perfect result. But that's massaging the figures. They actually have a 1 to 7.2 ratio. But he will never... Well, then why do you keep saying 6.9? Okay, so you say it's 1 to 7.2, and then you say 1 to 6.9. So why are the two different numbers? Why are you making it 6.9 when you're saying it's 7.2? Okay. He'll never say that because it sounds nowhere near 2-to-1. Because it isn't. LOL. LOL. It certainly is if you understand margin of error. So I'm just saying again, I'll just argue, that yes, maybe the margin of error has a bigger decimal scope, but the simple truth is I can make the simple argument that your 9 could have a margin of error of 1, and your 20 could have your 19 could have a margin of error of 1. All right. People say, stop wasting your time. He will never learn. Well, I'm certainly not going to learn this shit. I'm learning that you will not produce physical evidence that has any credibility. That's what I have learned. You're never going to do that. You're never going to show it taking 4 times more fuel to push something twice as fast. You're not going to show that happening. True, but I do mostly enjoy it. And I learn things myself along the way. He's entitled to his opinion. Too bad it's invariably wrong. And you've proven it wrong with what reasoning and what arguments? So again, we have no physical evidence of mv squared ever producing work in the real universe. So there's no experiment showing it doing more work. Sorry my comments are always so long. It's kind of compulsion to dot every... Well, these are certainly not I's and T's that have been dotted, but whatever. Yes, he's got to make his full fable. So he's got to write the whole 3 pig story, and he's got to talk about how big their snouts are and how shiny their eyes are, and every little detail has to be controlled. So you get the full effect of the little oinkers, a full description of the, no doubt he really wants to tell the, how he fucked the 3 pigs story. Oh, Despar is such a lousy, rotten, creepy human. Anyway, oh Jesus, what a piece of scum. Anyway, I don't know if I want to just keep reading this crap. So we'll see if the commenters can do anything at all. And if not, I will move on. All right, so the Merker guy, I'm surprised. I did, yes, I mentioned your fucking idiotic comment in a video. I actually deleted your comment. I've done videos on Eric Dullard in the past, okay, years ago. He's an idiot. He's a lunatic. He's a kook. He believes, energy is music or something. He thinks galaxy, he can create a galaxy inside of his little magic crystal ball. I mean, he's a wave nutter kook. Okay, he's not any better than a Ken Wheeler. He used to be a free energy nut. Okay, but he sort of backed off of that. But it's really inside of him. He really thinks there's an infinite amount of energy in the ground, and we can sometime, we put up a Tesla antenna, and we'll be able to collect free energy. And he's wasting people's money trying to make one of these Tesla free energy machines. So I don't know why you find him at all interesting. He just talks this archaic mush, about epicycles and blah 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 blah. It's all mush. So I don't know why you found it at all interesting. All right, I want to talk about quantum mechanics. I mean, there's no subject, is there? I mean, what is quantum mechanics? I'm arguing I am talking about quantum mechanics right now, because if you really understand what Newton was saying, he's basically, in Galileo, they were basically, and especially Descartes. I mean, Descartes was overtly telling you there's this energy stuff in the universe, and it just keeps moving to different places, and that's all that's happening. It's just constantly on the move. You don't have to put any more energy into the universe. God doesn't have to poke it. Nobody has to do anything, because it's got this constant flow of energy from place to place. I mean, if that isn't quantum mechanics, what the fuck is? Anyway, I get the sense that quantum mechanics is mostly nonsense in your view. Well, I'm just saying entanglement is nonsense. Yes, it's just complete fucking bullshit. And 400 antiparticles is complete bullshit, okay? 399 extra other particles is complete bullshit. There's charge in the universe, charge. Magnetism, electricity, gravity, these are real concepts. All of those other things quantum mechanics has invented are bullshit. You don't need them. All right, there is a quantized amount of force that moves through the universe. It's the smallest, most discrete bit. It's a little bit of force. And you can add up the little bits, and it will cause motion in things. And so, but it always has to be a full bit. You can't have half a bit or a quarter of a bit. So that's the quantum mechanic part. That's the Planck part. Do you believe that? Or do you believe this new quantum mechanics that's full of half spins and quarter spins and all kinds of weird conceptual bits of energy? All right, yes, it is nonsense in my view, most of that crap. Okay, the idea of quantizing energy is absolutely essential to understanding physics, in my opinion. So the idea of quantum being the source of the mechanics is perfectly reasonable. But randomness, that's unreasonable. So Feynman's a lunatic. Okay, the universe doesn't do random. There's no such thing as random. There's no such thing as spontaneous. These are not real physics concepts. Let's see, are there any parts you agree with? Well, I've just explained that. For example, Schrodinger's equation. Well, I obviously don't believe it has anything to do with waves, but Schrodinger's equation isn't even a wave equation. It's a misdiagnosed definition of the equation. Schrodinger's equation is an idealism. It's just basically saying, it's an equation basically saying Descartesian conservation is in order, and if you know everything about something's condition, then you can in fact predict its next position. So in my opinion, if you take Schrodinger's equation seriously, yes, but it's not really a usable equation. You will never have the information you need to make Schrodinger's equation mean anything, because it is an equation that requires you to know the location of every single piece of crap in the universe, which is totally unrealistic. So I don't even know why Schrodinger's equation is a thing, besides a thing that's just leading to a misunderstanding. So the better example would be, do I understand why Schrodinger invented the mockery of Schrodinger's cat? And yes, I do understand why he mocked entanglement, because it's ludicrously stupid. He also mocked, electrons with ESP. He mocked the idea that electrons will go to high school someday. He did a lot of mocking, okay, of quantum mechanics, even though he's, in a sense, the father of it. He didn't believe in any of that crap. I don't know what the Born rule is, but I'm sure it's stupid. Eric Duller, have you seen his video yet? So again, it's a 10-year-old video, for fuck's sake. Yeah, I've watched his 3-hour discourse on Steinmetz and Heaviside and all of these more than 100-year dead characters who he thinks, and Tesla, who he thinks understood electricity, which is just bullshit. I don't understand what you think Dullard knows. I mean, maybe just collect a couple of quotes, you know, of Dullard saying something that I should be impressed by. All right. Do you have a manifesto of your science views summarized? Well, that's what the debate channel is for, and I also have a version 2.0. Okay, now I haven't added any of the newer videos to that, but it basically indexes the subjects. All the subjects are there, and you can see I've made a couple of videos on that subject, blah, 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 blah. But I do have to update that. But it's perfectly good enough for a start. So go to draftphysics.com, look for website 2.0, or go to debatephysics.com, and you'll see some subjects. I mean, the main ones right now, last 2 years, have been the double slit experiment. I mean, you know, wave particle duality, where I prove it's a particle, and the kinetic energy crapola. All right. I am skeptical of your Newton simping. I don't know what that even means. Newton simping? What is that? What is simping? Is that some new thing? Simping? Quantum mechanics is 99% likely not nonsense. What is that as a statement? I mean, it's so stupid. Is 99% likely not nonsense? So you think it's not likely that entanglement is a misunderstanding, and it's not likely that superposition is not a misunderstanding. You think God does play dice with the universe, so you think something actually, some kind of random event happens in the universe. Things just do something, and it doesn't have to be caused by an effect. So I'm just saying, you know, I'm saying Descartes was 99% right, and Newton was 99% right, and Galileo was 99% right. And you fucktards have ruined that good start you had. You had a very good start, and you fucked it all up with your wooey baby bullshit physics. But the people talking about it are full of it. Well, they can't write a consistent narrative for it, because how can you? Again, you can't draw an atom and then say, okay, well now here's where the antiparticles are. You can't do it. It's impossible. So people love fast answers to questions, and it seems quantum doesn't give answers. I just don't think that's, you're not really getting to how stupid it all is. I mean, in the sense that it's all made out of wooey functions. I mean, bent space is a non-answer to a question. What causes gravity? Oh, well, nothing is bent. Yes, it's absolutely nothing. A nothing is absolutely bent, and the nothing is making the something do things. I mean, it's just too silly. It's got to be a something, and you have to explain what the fuck it is. Anyway. Oh, another name dropper. Sorry, but I'm just so sick of name dropping. Adi Shankar. Well, that's, you know, that guy is the guy, he's the Harvard professor, right? So I've played dozens of his videos. Broke Schrodinger's brain. Oh, that must be a different guy then. That was a long time ago. I thought Schrodinger's cat was mocking superposition. It's mocking entanglement, and superposition is the first stage of entanglement. So I guess, you know, But yes, it's mocking some idiotic notion that until we look at something, we don't know what its state is. So until it interacts with matter, we can't tell what it is. When of course things are interacting with forces all the time. So any electron could never be in a superposition because every electron is being hit every trillisecond of its existence. It's being hit by forces that are moving it all over the fucking place all the time. So it could never be in a superposition because it's always being photographed by gravity, or photographed by cell phones, or photographed by something. Something is establishing its identity by interacting with it. It's constantly being interacted with. And the same truth is for photons too. Photons can't just zoom through the universe and not interact with anything. But it's stupid anyway. Even if they didn't have silly measurement rules, the very idea that there's some superluminal special ESP force. I mean, you can't just smell how bad an idea that is. God, I mean, it's worse than religion. Spooky action doesn't even describe. It's spooky, stupid action. It's retarded physics. That's what Einstein should have said. It's retarded. God damn it. The fact that it appeals to so many people is just so disappointing. I mean, you just get this idea that, that when they sent those, when we sent the probes out there and they put the record on there with a picture of a man and a woman, they should have put the man in a tutu. They should have put him in a little faggoty ballet suit and just said, look, we're not serious. We're silly people. I mean, it's just so, yuck. It's just so non-mechanical. I mean, how could anybody who's ever done anything mechanical in the world, have touched anything, ever touched a hammer, how could they believe in this crap? I guess they all want to have superpowers. That's what it comes down to. They're all little, whatever the little, it's all faggoty stuff, right? Whatever that little Charlie's Angels, what was that stupid show with a stupid, whatever, little magic house, you go to magic school, whatever the fuck that douchebag story was. What the hell? I shouldn't forget things like that, right? What the hell is it? I can't remember. Oh, that's so funny. What the hell was that called? 5 movies of, wooey bullshit. What the hell was that? I can't really remember. It's just so funny. 5 movies. No! The silly kid with the magic wand, pussy wussy little stuff. Oxynope Poupe, where they were doing all that little magic-y crap in little magic school. What the hell was the kid's name? Like Charlie or something? What the hell is his name? Oh, that's it. Oh, God, it is just so... Oh, I just, I wonder how much transgenderism that movie caused. Oh, terrible. Ugh. But it's just, that's what physics looks like to me. It just looks just like they're all making a Harry Potter movie. It's just so... Ooh. So photons don't spread. Yes, that's true. And are always localized. They're in pieces. Photons are pieces of stuff. You can mix the pieces up and then you can remake the pieces into a pattern. So they're just a pattern. I could take the pixels on my screen and I could rearrange them by an algorithm. I could swirl them this way. And then I could put them through another algorithm, that is another polarizing film, and I could swirl them back the opposite way and they're restored again. The image is restored. Photons are a pattern. in space. They have to land on a surface to create a photon, and you're really just creating it out of pieces. So the interesting fact is you can create a photon out of a piece that comes from here, and a piece that comes from here, and a piece that comes from here. But that photon won't represent a clear image, it'll represent a very blurry image. So you can always tell the difference between a photon that has been distorted and a photon that hasn't, or a photon that's been reconstructed, because it will start to degrade as an image photon. I mean, it still will produce light. I'm just saying it'll produce light in random locations. Randomized locations, if it's scattered. But the point is you can scatter the bits and then reform the pattern. You can take the pattern of light and dark on the computer screen, you can smash it through a filter, and they're still light and dark. They're still phases of the little photons, and you can move them around to different locations, but in the end you're still going to make a certain number of light photons that are white and photons that are blue, photons that are red and photons that are green. So yeah, but I mean I can't say, I'm sorry the language is broken, right? Because we have the word photon and it's supposed to be representing some ton. The photon is not a ton. The photon is quanta of energy, as Einstein put it. It's quanta. It's made of quanta. So it's made of more than one piece. It's a pattern moving through space. That's the particle model. The particle model isn't the photon is like this is a 5 mile long photon. Okay? That's not the argument. The argument is there's 5 miles between where the photons have been, the quanta have been compressed. So there's a compression of quanta, and then there's 5 miles, and then there's another compression of quanta. You get it? They've been compressed in space. I move my hand at the speed of light. What happens to the light? I collect all of it. And then when I stop my hand, you get all the light that I collected through the whole process of moving my hand at the speed of light. All the reflections are created. I push all of it. That's what electrons are doing. They're not pushing all the light, so it's not all of it, but they're going half the speed of light, or 3/4 of the speed of light. And when they go those fast speeds, they compress the quanta, okay, into smaller and smaller spaces, and create higher and higher frequencies. All right. Thoughts on Arthur Schopenhauer? No, we won't bother with that. Thoughts on Arthur Schopenhauer's will energy. There's obviously these are different uses of energy. We're not talking about human energy, like, oh, I feel strong, or I feel weak, or I feel like going today, or I feel like sleeping. We're not talking about your mood, or how well your biology's working. It's physics, not psychology. Or physiology. Do you still reject Michelson? I reject that they even know what a beam splitter is. So will you put the goddamn question in the proper context? I'm rejecting the fact that they even know what a photon is, let alone what splits them, or what splitting means. Okay, so you can keep trying to make it into some sort of reject their experiment. I'm not rejecting the results of their experiment. I'm rejecting that they even understand how the experiment's working. God damn, you're so dishonest, you fuckers. I mean, I've explained it so many times. What is a beam splitter doing that's half silvered? It's creating a bunch of slit experiments. The light that goes through the slit is diffracted, it is spread, it is scattered. The light that doesn't, that reflects off the mirror, stays intact. It does not spread. That's a huge distinction. One beam of light is spreading through the whole experiment. The other beam of light is not spreading through the whole experiment until it gets to the very last mirror and then starts to spread. Those are the two beams of light you're combining. One that has spread through the whole experiment, so it's had lots of time to get wider and wider and wider, and the other one hasn't. It's just so dishonest. Anyway. and how it showed that the speed of light always remains constant. So again, this is just such a lie. It didn't show shit. I mean, frankly, his results were rather vague. Okay, if you pay any attention to his actually reporting on his actual results, he was quite confused by the fact that he did get a signal in exactly the opposite condition of what he thought he should get a signal. So he did have a change in the exact opposite position from what he thought he shouldn't have a signal. So his own results were a little bit wet, mushy, muddy, foggy. All right. Remains constant regardless of the speed of the observer. So this is just a pile of shit, okay? The speed of light, it is a fucking three-dimensional universe. So fuck you in the ass until dead. You show me where this fourth dimension exists, where any such thing exists, okay? So you don't want to make up this fake universe that has more than 3 fucking physical dimensions. That's your prerogative, but in my opinion, that's just grotesquely religion, all right? That's Holy Ghost absolute fucking made-up crap, because you don't have a single shred of fucking evidence that there's any fourth fucking dimension, and that anything moves in space other than through the process of it acquiring momentum. Nothing moves for no fucking reason. It has to be interacted with by either another physical material object, or it has to be interacted with a physical fucking goddamn force. And this is just such a pile of shit for you to say that Michelson-Morley proved, okay, that when my hand moves at the speed of light, that somehow the light keeps bouncing off my hand at the speed of light, when it can't do that. It can't physically move in the 3 dimensions faster than the speed of light. So it will not do that. But geez, you're such a propagandist. I mean, you really think you have enough evidence to argue that you proved with that rickety, shitty Michelson-Morley experiment, that you proved that light always bounces off my hand and leaves my hand faster than my hand, the speed of light relative to my hand? It doesn't leave the speed of light relative to my hand. It leaves at the speed of light. It never goes any other speed. A photon never travels any other speed. If I travel as fast as, or half as fast as, or a quarter as fast as, I will, in fact, catch up to the photon. I mean, I will stay, it will not leave at the speed of light my hand. My hand has a movement in the universe. I'm automatically going to create photons that aren't going the speed of light away from me at the speed of light. Yes, they're traveling in the 3 dimensions at the speed of light, but I won't see them moving that fast because, frankly, I'm moving really fast too. If a bird is going 50 miles an hour and my car is going 50 miles an hour, right, I can look out my window and I can just watch the bird keep going 50 miles an hour. All right, so now let's say 100 miles an hour is the speed of light. So the bird's going 100 miles an hour. I'm going 50 miles an hour in the same direction. I will not see the bird going 100 miles an hour anymore. It will not look like it's going 100 miles an hour. It will look like it's going 50 miles an hour. Because it will only gain distance on me at 50 mile an hour rate. It will not get distance on me at the 100 mile an hour rate. Now show me the fucking experiment where you prove that isn't the truth. Because you don't have one. Oh, Schrodinger wasn't a philosopher. I mean, fuck that. He was a fucking hardcore materialist. So anyway, Schopenhauer, you're saying, sorry. Wrong guy. I was thinking of the other guy. Yeah, right. Why are you talking about Schopenhauer? He wasn't a physicist. Frankly, he was a stupid. He was rather, frankly, everything he said is sort of tainted by the fact that he was an insane chauvinist. So, I mean, he had all kind of mommy issues. His mommy controlled the money because his father committed suicide, blah, 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 blah. And, he had all kind of issues. And he sat there and turned those into a philosophy, which was really kind of repugnant. His personal problems with women, he wrote about it as if he's writing some kind of real story. And, Nietzsche was the same way. Because chicks didn't like Nietzsche, he had a whole fucking attitude problem. I know Schopenhauer. I'm just saying, I'm not impressed by the man, okay? Frankly, he fucking cared more about his goddamn clothes than the animals or people on this planet, to make him into some sort of fucking poster child for life sucks. Well, he was a shitty poster child for it because he mostly thought life sucks because it didn't treat him nice enough. He didn't get off easy enough. He wasn't rich enough. And he was fucking rich. And he pissed it away. I mean, again, this guy is supposed to be some kind of intellectual, and he couldn't even figure out how, God damn it, you're going to waste money on fucking goddamn clothes when people are dying in the street for a lack of 10 cents? Well, I don't even know what you mean by idealist, but that sounds like, yeah, he probably was a racist too. But whatever. I don't want to talk about fucking Schopenhauer. I'm sick of the fact that, you know, in other conversations, somehow I have to find Schopenhauer fascinating, and I really don't find him all that fascinating. I didn't like reading his books. I thought he was boring as fuck. So yeah, there's a few paragraphs where he says something quite eloquent. But other than those few paragraphs, fuck it. I got no use for him. His overall philosophy was muddy and mushy. Yeah, there's no clock ticking, okay? Yes, yes, the argument they'll make is if I'm moving half the speed of light and I shine a flashlight in front of me, that somehow I will move through the universe for billions of years and I will only experience like 79 heartbeats. So I will be traveling time after time, all time, the universe will be flying by and everything will be happening, all kinds of events will take place, and my heartbeat will go one beat every year. And so I will be moving insanely slowly. And so now the light has plenty of time to get away from me at the speed of light. So it's really just about perception. It's not about actual physical reality. The fact is the photon did move away from me at half the speed. And I'm only going to see it, you're saying, at the real speed of light because I'm moving so fucking slow that I gave it a time to finish going the speed of light. I gave it enough time to do it. I closed my eyes so much, so often, that I didn't see its real speed. Because I opened my eyes so infrequently, I allowed it to get way far away from me. And then I said, wow, look how far away it is. Because I wasn't awake most of the time. I mean, that's not, that's not a practical physical answer. The physical fact is the photon always moves the same speed. And if you want to say you can cryogenically freeze humans, fine. But don't say it, you're doing anything else. Time dilation is just saying I'm going to freeze the human being. But you have to use an outdated scientist like Newton, okay? I don't have to use Newton. I'm saying Newton and me agree. I'm not using Newton. The only thing I'm taking from Newton is the fact that he got right answers, and that's the truth. And I agree with him. Only delusions Marxists think the universe is fully Newtonian. What the fuck is this shit? Only delusions Marxists think the universe is fully Newtonian. I think you should have said like delusionary Marxists or something. Well, look, if you're just gonna, if all you can do is throw insults that are really quite meaningless to me, I'll just fuck you off, okay? Because what the hell, you're not making a physics argument. I don't even know what you mean by fully Newtonian. By Newton's death, Newton was, I think, well aware that there was probably a physical speed to light, okay? But he really didn't know what an electron was or a proton was, charge, electricity. These were all subjects that hadn't really been explored deeply. So, yeah, Newton had, you know, a smaller context in which to try to put the puzzle pieces in the right place. My only argument is that Newton was such a devoted scientist that he only put pieces up that he was really sure of. So he didn't speculate on what, oh, well, if I really imagine and I try to, I'll make up some kind of crap and I'll put that on the puzzle board. Okay? He was really careful about what he glued into the puzzle. And I'm saying what he glued into the puzzle as laws, I wouldn't word them the way he did, but they're good laws. They're good rules to go by. You want to make a complaint and say they're wrong? Fuck you. Only an asshole would do that. Because he got right fucking answers, moron. NASA will tell you it wasn't Einstein that landed the man on the moon. Okay, it was Newton. And it certainly wasn't Schrodinger's equation. The magical equation for which we never see it actually do anything, right? And just as you've never seen anyone ever go from start to finish. So use Einstein's math, take the orbital data from Mercury, and go from start to finish and explain how Einstein predicts it. Never happened on the internet. I can't find that video. They only do the partial. They'll either tell you what gamma is and not put it in the equation, or they'll tell you the equation and just say, well, gamma is 1.76. But they'll never do the whole thing and show you exactly how you can go from one logical pile of evidence and show you how Einstein's formula perfectly predicted that orbit. Let's see. Chatbot question mark thinks cell phones bend space. I don't know what he thinks, but he's obviously a bit of a shit talker. It would be interesting to see what a chatbot does in a chat, where it has to just fit in. So instead of you directly talking to it, it has to respond to both the comments and what the person's saying, and and it has to interact, like it has to write a sentence of some kind, let's say every 3 minutes. It'd be interesting to see what it just makes up as a sentence, like what it takes from the conversation and what it thinks is relevant. Yeah. That would be funny. It would probably just make references to movies, like 2001 or something. Wasn't 2001 incredible? Say something like that. So why do you think electromagnetism bends space? I just don't even understand why you think bent space extends to any part of any other subject but gravity. There's absolutely no evidence that electromagnetism is gravity-based. I would argue it is, but regardless, there's no conventional physics theory that puts electromagnetic functions as gravitationally sourced. So exactly how can you interject bent space, time, into electromagnetism? The fact is, gravity moves at the speed of light. Okay, so in that sense, they share a common function. But you have to explain why it's just coincidental that bent space, the perturbations in bent space, move at exactly the same speed as light and magnetism and electricity. You sort of have to explain why the fuck is that exactly the same when it's such a different function. One is made out of a force they concede is physical, and one is made out of a non-force that they claim is non-physical. But I just wonder where he got that from. I wonder what wacky video told him that electromagnetism is in some way bending space or the consequence of bent space. I don't even know what your reference, God did it or something. How is that relevant? Charge creates electromagnetism, and charge creates dipoles, which are magnetism. So you could argue that charge is the elemental function. Now, yes, conventional physics has no explanation for what causes the charge on electrons and the charge of protons. The fact that they are inversely opposites. So they have no theory. I do. Really good one. I'll show it. Yeah, I might as well show that, right? Why have this crap on the screen, this Brozosian garbage, when I could have much better crap on the screen? Let's see, where is it? There it is. All right, let's give it a... Oh, this is where I'm looking at it. I'm examining it more closely, so I have everything slowed down tremendously. And so it's not nearly as... Because there's still a feature missing in terms of the reflections. But you can see every little hit causes an interaction. If the red thing hits the blue thing, it changes color. Blah, 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 blah. So it's just the simple little interactions that cause the whole thing to work. But here's the more active one. So you'll see they'll turn into dipoles, okay? Just takes a little bit of time, and it'll just be 4 dipoles, 4 magnets. So it's already happened pretty much. Red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue. Yeah. So, yeah, they're better models than the silly woo space created that you believe in based on faith. I can show you a real universe made out of real processes that are really simple. Just stuff moving the speed of light, hitting matter that doesn't move at all unless it absorbs a piece of that energy from the universe. All based on momentum. You are asking why gravity and speed of light match. I'm asking why would I think they're different things? Why would I think gravity and electromagnetism are caused by different things when it seems kind of obvious that it's the same thing because the thing is moving this very specific speed? And it just seems like the same component must exist in both theories. The same interactor must be responsible because it's moving exactly the same 2.9687 whatever million meters per second. Seems kind of obvious that you wouldn't have 2 distinctly different causes that have a feature so identical. And it's not like blueness or redness. It's a very specific speed. Well, you can keep saying they aren't. You have no evidence that they aren't. So fuck you, okay? And look, most conventional physicists will say there is a clear division between forces and matter. So even your statement is completely unendorsed by the physics community. So you can make your declarations, but why the fuck would I pay any attention to you, you fucking kook? This is literal misinformation. You are misinformation. So until you cite a fact or post a link to an actual piece of evidence, you have nothing and you're just shit talking. So you won't last too much longer because you're not saying anything but you're right and we're wrong, and you're not saying it from any authority whatsoever. You've demonstrated no knowledge of the subject whatsoever. Let me see your simulation. That'll be my new line, right? Take me to your link and then I can use show me your simulation. let's see what this. The same speed of gravity and electromagnetism is quite the coincidence. Why is the strength of the force 10 orders of magnitude different? It's only 10 orders of magnitude different because you're making the objects 10 orders of magnitude bigger. For fuck's sake. Obviously, the big object has trillions of charges in it. So you're adding up trillions of charges and saying trillions of charges equals one candlestick. Do you understand the comparison can't make any sense? But obviously the point is that the gravity isn't charge itself. It is the consequence. So if I said to you that every time one of these objects moves this way and then moves that way, it's now created gravity. Because what it did was it absorbed force in the universe that was going the speed of light, and it made it go half the speed of light. And then it took energy going this way that was going the speed of light, now it's going half the speed of light. So it took energy out of the fucking universe, all right, and converted it into a slower energy, right? I mean, it's not going as fast because it had to slow down to push the electron or push the proton. And if it's pushing it back and forth, it can't be making any changes to the overall universe. It can't be pushing anything anywhere that way. And so it's a use of the energy. So now the outside universe has less energy in it because you took some of the energy away by moving matter. That's gravity. So that's why it's on the scale a lesser force, but you still have to understand the force is interacting with electrons and protons. That's the only universe, okay? That little blue and red shit with the little crap, that's the real universe. There's only one universe. There's no big universe. There's just that universe. Everything that happens there first. That's where everything happens. Nothing happens anywhere else. It all happens in that universe. So you have to kind of understand that first, understand why there's this distinction between the strength of gravity and the strength of charge. All right. If you compute the gravity between a proton and an electron, it's 40 orders of magnitude weaker. Again, it's just because you're measuring two different things. You're talking about how much blue and red there are. That's one subject, okay? So if I put a bunch of red things inside this simulation, it'll make everything turn red, okay? The whole field ejected from it will be red. Every one of these objects right now, you can't really see it, but every one of them only reflects the color they are. So the orange thing will never reflect a blue, and the blue things will never reflect a blue. Orange, I meant to say with the orange. So they're essentially radiating, the blue things are essentially radiating blue, and the orange things are essentially radiating red, okay? So that's why charge is different, because I can arrange charges where there's a lot of red and very little blue, or a lot of blue and very little red. See how I mean, that's a simple enough explanation. You could understand that if I made an object that was all red on the inside and all blue on the outside, you could understand that it would look completely blue. All right. But gravity is about the absorption of the energy. So it's the same force creating both things, but they're creating two different manifestations. One's about what is the thing reflecting, the other one's about what did it absorb. So one's about absorbing energy from the field, one is about what are you reflecting to the field. I don't know. I mean, I'm sorry I'm impatient. It's a legitimate question. I'm just saying, I guess what I'm saying to you is you really have to understand this simulation and the three simple rules running it to understand the distinction between the gravitational part, which you don't see here, but is happening here. Okay, you see it every time you see that little arrow move, the little notchy thing that's jiggling. Every time you see that moving, that's creating gravity. Every time an electron moves in a direction, it's degrading the speed of the force. And every degrade of the speed of force adds up to gravity. All right. Do you realize this violates, it does not, the heat death of the universe theory, which is proven. So there's no point. You have no proof of that at all. That's just a lie. I mean, there's no point in you just sitting here lying about what you have proof of. It's absolute nonsense. Heat death can only happen if the energy actually escapes the universe. So if you're going to argue that photons actually do leave the universe, then I'll agree with you, the universe will die, a heat death. But if it in fact is happening as Descartes would describe, or would be described by many physicists, that it is a container, the universe, and nothing escapes the container, then there's no heat death. But whatever, you want to believe in expanding space, that's your business, okay? It's a ludicrous theory. Tired light does explain it. There's lots of hydrogen atoms in space. You could understand that every time a photon hits one of those hydrogen atoms, it loses frequency. That's Compton scattering. That's a well-known proven fact. So it's a proven fact that when photons interact with matter, they lose frequency. Okay, so you could simply understand that, well, the atoms are transparent. If the photon hits a transparent atom, it's projected through it and it loses a little bit of its frequency each time. You can understand that the light from distant objects would more likely have traveled through a lot of hydrogen atoms and therefore lost a lot of their frequency. That's not very hard to understand. But your silly made-up fable that space is being created between everything and there's new space being created all the time, that sounds to me extraordinarily bizarre and silly. And you have no proof of it. So fuck you and your lies about what you've proven. Let's see, you have a total wrong understanding of it. The energy fluctuations, whatever that even means, don't leave but flatten like a heartbeat. How does a heartbeat flatten? All right, I think we're done. Okay, it's not a straw man. Fuck you. You're not going to argue from evidence. You're just going to make declarations. You can go fuck yourself with that crap. You're obligated to do more than just declare a truth, fucker. All right, I'll put you in a timeout. You can maybe even learn to make a reasonable argument on the subject, or you can fuck off. Shit. That's how they behave. They just tell you, I believe in Jesus. Jesus saved people. Jesus rescued them. Jesus walked on the water and pulled babies out of quicksand. Jesus did this. It's just Jesus stories. They don't have hard evidence for any of this horse shit they have made up. I'm surprised he didn't tell us how many people the dark matter has saved. Proven fact. Dark matter's a hero. Alright, so it's probably been a couple hours. Yeah, 2.5 actually. So we shall try to wind down and see if anybody has anything else. It was an interesting morning, gotta say. I hope you have a good weekend. Well, whatever. Don't stress too much. Well, it's, you know, how can I not stress too much? People keep bringing up Eric Dullard. For fuck's sake, why are you bringing him up? How can that not be stressful? No, it's okay. I'm just surprised. I mean, the video does have 1 million views, and you're just saying, okay, so I guess people fall for this shit, but I just mean, what does he say that doesn't sound like a bunch of contrived babble? I mean, it's all just word crapola. I mean, he just spews a big pile of word crap. And you're just like, do any of those words mean anything? The dielectric blah, 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 blah. Oh, we hit 20. Wow. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's good. 20 is a good number. 30 will be better. And when we get to 30, we don't let anybody else in. Let's see. He denounced relativity, though. Well, I mean, but he doesn't denounce it with some kind of real argument. He just denounces it because he's one of the anti-Einsteinians. You know, that's it. There's no reason there's no real thoughtful reason, because he believes in just as wooey a universe. I mean, he believes in a universe made out of swirls. I mean, it's all a swirliverse. So if you get my point, I mean, isn't that as bad as Einstein? A swirliverse isn't an improvement. I mean, I suppose I should take what I can get, right? If he believes in three-dimensional space, at least that's a positive. But if he believes the three-dimensional space is full of swirly shit, well, then he's getting the wrong idea. Yeah, well, the whole point is he's trying to, it's not about AC coils, it's about generating electricity out of the ether. Okay, so he's trying to capture the ether electricity, etherticity. And so, but it's a long, well-established fact that Tesla put more energy in than he ever got energy out. Okay, I mean, his giant lightning machine did not absorb energy. It dispensed with energy, tons of it. He had a whole frickin' electric plant devoted to running his experiments. I mean, he wasn't sucking energy out of the system. He was putting a ton of energy into the system. I mean, he was just wasting it, shooting lightning bolts into the ground. Did the energy bits, photons, and electrons in your model come about from I don't care about any Big Bang crap. I don't care about origins. I mean, frankly, it's not a reasonable physics subject. It really is a religious subject. If you want to talk about where did electrons come from, I mean, fuck. It's just not worth it. It's just not a conversation you can really have. You're never going to find the footprints that will lead you to that source information. So you're never going to know why there's a universe. But I'm clearly saying I just couldn't give a shit, because you're talking about billions of years of time. Who cares whether it's oscillating? Who cares if it's going in one direction? Who cares if it's flying towards the cat in the hat? Who cares? I mean, it really doesn't have anything to do with the physics we should talk about. We should talk about physics within the realm of 100,000 years or something, or maybe even 1,000,000 years. Any physics that's going to take place outside of that bubble shouldn't really be worthy of conversation. It's not even 13.8 billion years old, because you could argue that we can't see light that's older than that, and so there could be lots of it that's out there and we can't see it. But whatever, I don't want to, it's just a waste of time conversation. Sorry, I don't know why everybody is fascinated with conversation about whether the universe is oscillating or whether the universe banged. I mean, fuck. And especially in the context of their ludicrous theory of banging, where it bangs, it goes boop, and then it goes blah, 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 and it expands by 1,000,000,000 times at 1,000,000,000 times the speed of light, like instantaneously, and then it starts going bloop, 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 little expansion again. I mean, fuck that. Too silly. Alright, even though you seem to have trolls commenting from the time to time, I seriously appreciate the time and energy making these discussions every week. Every day, but yes. I'm learning a lot. Yes, well, I have acquired knowledge. In the 10 years I've been doing this, I have spent a lot of time watching lectures and watching experiments and looking into accelerators and doing all this crap. So I've sort of earned a right to speak. Alright, well, whatever. I don't care about black holes, okay? You want to say neutron star? Fine. It all condenses into a neutron star, where all the electrons and protons are right next to each other, and everything doesn't have any energy in it, because all the force has been expelled by smashing everything right next to each other. So fucking what? Who fucking cares? I mean, why is this important to you? What if it did do that? So what? How the fuck is that relevant to understanding electricity, magnetism, gravity, and whatever the other one would be? Why would that be at all interesting as a physics subject? Isn't magnetism much more interesting? Isn't electricity much more interesting? Isn't fucking all this stuff much more interesting than worrying about, well, Well, does it all? Does the big universe? Who cares? And as I pointed out, the little universe is the only universe. That's the one you need to understand. The little one, the little one, the little one. Whatever happens in the big one, the little one did it first. So if you understand the little verse, you will automatically understand the bigger verse. But you're never going to understand its birth, for fuck's sake, because there's not going to be a placenta laying on the ground somewhere and say, oh, okay, it was a mammal because there's a placenta and here's an umbilical cord. You're never going to find any of that shit. You're not going to find any afterbirth. Oh, fuck. It's probably a pointless question in the sense that it's probably unanswerable, but I consider the ultimate question. Why does anything exist? Okay, well, whatever. Just don't do it here. Please. I know the answer is going to be because. And it's going to be really stupid. It's going to be a really dumb answer. Because X hit Z and, the end of the Z broke off and then the broken bit hit whatever. Trollania in the eye, and Trollania sneezed and sneezed the universe. I mean, who the fuck cares? It's not going to be some answer like because God made it. So fuck it. It's uninteresting. I don't see any reason to believe in a quark. They've never shown any real diagram of how it works or why it works or any of that, frankly. So yeah, I don't believe in quarks. I think it just makes a mess out of a perfectly rational, functional universe. I don't think you can break an electron, and I don't think you can break a proton. I don't think you can do it. I don't think there's any evidence they ever did do it. You can move them at very different speeds. You can move any one of those objects as anything from 0 to the speed of light. You can move them. And when they hit something after they've been moved, it can look like something. And they can actually have energy behind them as they're moving. So when they hit, and then the energy keeps hitting you. So there can be lots of different energy, momentum responses in the universe. But to call everything that has a different momentum a different particle, in my opinion, that's really stupid. Now, even their own physics has advanced to a point where now, they actually talk about neutrons as being electrons and protons. A neutron is a composite particle. And I'm just saying, isn't it kind of obvious that if that's true, it's a dipole? It's not neutral for no reason. It's neutral because it has both charges in it. You get me? I mean, they've modified their understanding. So I'm just saying, do you really think quarks is really going to be the answer? Strange and up and down and whatever, one-fingered quarks and six-fingered quarks. You think that's going to be part of the reality? I don't think so. Let's see. They become stable as whatever hadrons, eventually forming electrons and protons. Well, at first they only formed protons, and electrons were elemental. So I don't know what year you say they decided electrons are now made out of quarks, but fuck that. Show me. I mean, come on. I'm not taking that one on faith. I'm not taking any of it on faith, frankly. If they can't diagram any of this shit. They can't draw you a picture of this crap working. I'm showing you a simulation of it working. Okay. Well, whatever a hadron is, okay, so whatever you're saying, I'm just saying that obviously whatever they're saying, I can't. Electrons have a polarity somehow. Somehow electrons have a magnetic moment. They have all kinds of weirdness that doesn't make any sense. You really think an electron is ever something other than just a standard charge? All it is one of these little red things. That's all an electron is. It can't fucking do anything It doesn't have any polarity. Well, anyway, I don't want to do this baryon-hydron crapola, but whatever. Baryons are odd numbers and equal to the masses or equal to the numbers, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, those are the photons, so they call the force baryons and call the whatever, the matter hadrons. I don't care. This is just too silly a conversation. You want to have it somewhere, go somewhere else where they want to talk about all that silly crap. But yeah, until you show me an antiparticle, I say, fuck that. Fuck that. Too silly. Go to the Wikipedia page. They still have the archaic 1956 photograph, of the object going through the lead plate a little bit too fast to be called a proton. The same experiment that 3 other scientists did and said it's a proton, right? And because one scientist said it's a positron. Now it's a positron. That's their proof. That's it. That's all they have, all right? They don't have anything. Okay, so just look, if you're going to keep using the word, I'm going to have to maybe I'll put baryons on the you can't type it list. Okay, because that's like the N word to me, really. I mean, I have no interest in a conversation based on their crappy, idiotic theory that is completely unproven and irrational. You can't draw the atom that works with this crap in it, so why should I waste my time with it? Atoms work really good with electrons and protons in them. They don't work really good with all this hadron-y crap and baryon-y crap flying around. So, yes, now it's time to just keep lingering. So, fuck that. Yeah, you're pissing me off anyway. Stupid goddamn people. You just can't stay on the subject. Kinetic energy versus MV. Really interesting. Photons. Particle versus wave. Really interesting. Yeah. Electricity and magnetism. Weird kind of binding connections it has. Really interesting. And you have to talk about this shit. Not interesting. Alright, anyway, till the next time and such, and so forth and whatnot.